Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello everybody. This is Mr. Hamada on behalf of Ruad International Schools and the English department. I'd like to welcome you all to this lesson. Writing an informal letter. What was the last letter you've written? Who was it to? Did you write it to a friend? Did you write it to a classmate? Your father? Your mom? All of these are considered informal letters. In today's lesson, we will learn how to start an informal letter, how to end it, what to write in the middle, what are the basic parts of writing an informal letters, and what are some pieces of advice or some key ideas, healthy precautions you have to put into your mind when you're writing an informal letter. Let's get started. Let me show you a model first. We studied throughout this week, we studied this selection. It's called Just Be Yourself. This letter is somehow different from the ones that we're learning today. But anyway, let's have a look at both. In this letter, you're sending a letter to yourself or younger self. The author here started with a number one, that's the greeting, ending by a comma. Dear person, because she's talking to herself, so she said, dear teen me. Paragraphs. Paragraph 1 starts with the indentation, spaced in the first line only, and once you use indentation, you don't need to keep space between paragraphs. So directly start the next paragraph with also indentation. So every paragraph starts with indentation, and there is no need for space between paragraphs. See, this line, this is the last line in paragraph 1, and this is the first line in paragraph 2. There is no space in between them, and so on. So keep using indentations or keep leaving space. Let me show you another example. Here, in this model here, the person who wrote this letter, he kept spaces between paragraphs because he didn't use indentation. So this is important. Either you use indentation or you keep spaces between paragraphs. Back to this letter. So we have introductory paragraph and then body. You can have one body paragraph or more than one. And there was no ending as well because it's like very informal. It's to yourself. But what if you're writing an informal letter to somebody else? It will still be informal in language, but we will add some components. What are they? Let's have a look here in this sample. Number one, you put the address. 1 and 2 and 3, they form the address. To the right top corner, you put the address. You don't have to use this format. You don't have to start with the number of street, number of the house and then the street. You just follow the normal one in your city or your country. So on the top right corner, you put the address in number 1, 2, 3 lines, and then you leave a space, then you put the date. Number 4 is the space. There should be a space here between the address and the date. And this is how you follow the date. You start with an abbreviation of the day, and there is also abbreviation for the month, and then the day. You can use this format or any other format that is common in your country. So there is no specific format in using the address or the date. Back, number 6, you put the greeting, dear, and then you put the name of the person followed by a comma, which is really important. Then you leave one line space between the greeting and body 1. Then you start writing the introduction to the informal letter, body introduction, body 1, maybe body 2, and so on. And at the end there is closing. Number 9 here it's the closing line, love, or I will give you also other alternatives for ending an informal letter. And you put your name at the end with a space before it, indentation also. Type. How do you start the letters? Usually people start informal letters by reminding the receiver of the letter by the last time they contacted each other. For example, the last time you saw him, the last time you received the letter from him. And also you end by referring to the next time you will contact each other, either by expecting letters from the other person or a meeting or so. So you start by the last contact and you end by the next contact. So that's the general shape and format of writing an informal letter. As you can see here in the other letter that we studied here, there was no address because it's to the same person, and also he didn't write a signature or closing sentence because it's still to yourself. Some notes. So I'll pick some of the notes that you have to pay attention to. As we said, that you follow the format of writing the address in your country, include your post code, and if you like your telephone number, you can add it in the address. And if you don't, no problem. Don't write the name or address of the person you're writing to on the left. It should be on the left, should be on the right. For the date, you have to use these abbreviations: Tuesday, Weds for Wednesday, and Thurs for Thursday, and so on, about the days and month. The word dear is always appropriate, but are there any other alternatives? Of course, you can say dear or dearest, which is much more affectionate. Number 7, most letters start with a reference to the most recent contact, as I told you. Like here, thanks very much for your letter, which came this morning. That was the last contact between you and the receiver of the letter. Number 8, most letters also end with a reference to the next contact with the other person. It might be, I'm looking forward to seeing you, or hearing from you, or do write again to me. So that is the expected contact. Number 9, love is suitable ending for an intimate friend of either sex, more affectionate. For example, you can end your letter instead of saying love, you can say all my love and kisses, lots of love, and so on. All the best wishes. Number 10, remember that this is the only place either on the letter or the envelope that your name appears. So the last thing, which is number 10 here, that's here. That's the only place where you put your name. Even you don't need to put it on the envelope type. Let's start talking now about some technical devices when you're writing an informal letter. Number 1, how to sound informal. Number 1, remember that you are writing to a friend. So imagine the real person. Be friendly and jokey. How is your diet going? So be friendly because you're writing to somebody you already know him. So remember him in your head when you're writing. Number 2, write in spoken English. Use personal construction phrases with I and you. For example, I know that, or I know this sounds silly, but I hope you don't mind my saying this, but. So that's spoken English, sounds like spoken English. Use informal vocabulary. Use informal vocabulary, including the phrasal verbs. So in informal letters, you can use phrasal verbs and linking words, such as these ones here. These are examples of linking words expressing your opinion, like to be quite honest, this happened. To tell you the truth, I like that. As I see it, so these are examples. Expressing surprise, you can express surprise in informal letters. Believe it or not, this happened. Changing the subject. Anyways, talking of which, that reminds me of something, incidentally, and so on. Listing reasons to start with, first of all. So these are all examples of informal expressions, informal linkers or linking words or transitions to informally express your ideas. B, type. You can refer back to the letter that I showed to you and you find examples of these devices, these technical devices used there. What else? The next point is about how to be informal in your punctuation. You can use exclamation marks, but in the other formal letters, you shouldn't use exclamation marks. You can use dashes. You can use also abbreviations, like here you can say, instead of saying the Vatican and all the other important sites, you can say the Vatican etc. And instead of saying in the morning, you can say AM. Monday, you say MON. So you can use abbreviations in informal letters. Contractions with words with apostrophes and ellipses. Contractions like here. Instead of saying I will, you can say I'll. She will not, you say she won't, and so on. Ellipses Like here, it was nice to hear from you. You can drop out the word it was and you say nice to hear from you. So that's ellipsis. Ellipsis is acceptable in informal letters. So that's all about writing informal letters. If you have any questions, send them to me on the discussion forum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.